I am your host, Keith Andrew, along here with Suzan-Lori, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Now, to let you know, it's a half-hour talk show, but you have as much time as you want, and you don't have to give short answers. You can give long answers. Actually, I prefer that, long answers. And you can ask me anything you want. It's a normal conversation.
Fantastic.
So starting off, what can you tell me about yourself?
My name is Lisa Berry, and I'm an actress, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker person in the making, and I believe in what you're doing. I think it's important to have as many people as possible spreading a good word of you can achieve anything you want and your dreams are valid no matter what they are, and anything I can do to help foster that and help put that out there even more is really what I'm all about, whether it's through the work that I do or working with other people.
Alright. Well, like I said, I'm going to ask you a bunch of easy questions, and I'm going to ask you a couple hard-hitting questions, and you can always pass on the ones you don't want to answer. Starting off, what can you tell me about your high school history? Did you enjoy high school? Did you hate high school?
Loved it. I loved high school. I wouldn't go back to high school, but I absolutely loved high school. I have some pretty amazing friends that I still have to this day, and it was a really great playground for me. I've always been the type of person who's like, let's make a good something out of a bad something. So the minute high school looked like it was going to be a challenge, I was just like, okay, I can't live 4 years like that. So I joined the basketball team, and I got really social through doing that, and the art club, and going on trips to New York with the school, and I just kind of put myself out there, kind of like what you're doing right now, so that I could just have every advantage of having a social life that was more around what I was interested in, rather than feeling defeated like high school had already conquered me just because there were like 20,000 more people, it felt like anyways, when you leave elementary school and the comforts of being a kid, and you just feel like you're thrown into this adult world, and I took it. I had a good time with it. My friends are awesome. The memories I had were awesome. Prom was awesome. I even got to go to my sister's prom, so I got 2 proms because she's only a year ahead of me. So it was a wonderful experience.
All right. Was there any teachers that made a difference in your life? Were you picked on in high school? Was the anti-bullying?
I'm huge on anti-bullying because I don't think it's necessary, and it's really just highlighting whatever insecurities the bullier has. But I wasn't really bullied in high school either, only because I kind of bullied myself. So it really didn't leave room for other people to make fun of me once I've gotten everything that you could possibly make fun of me out of the way. And so once somebody did make fun of me for something that I might not have caught, they now look like the horrible, horrible human beings, because it was just like, wow, she's already got so much against her. Like, how are you gonna just throw her under the bus even more? So it was. I learned at a really quick age how to self-preserve.
All right. Well, what about in your college years? Were you a party animal, study nerd?
I was both. I was a work hard, play hard, and I kind of still am. No, I still am. I'm a work hard, play hard kind of person in general. I think if you work hard for something, I think you should be able to enjoy it, and you should, to quote our CFO of Facebook, I think you should lean in and enjoy the fruits of your labor. So I always take advantage of, I'm in a good place and I'm going to ride it for as long as I can, because you know that eventually you're going to have to get back to work and get back to the grind and get back to doing, the necessities of life. And then, so it's not as much fun if you're not enjoying what comes with all of that effort. So I believe in a work hard, play hard kind of way. And I think for me anyways, when I did that, it allowed me to have more to bring to the work because I was experiencing life and I was having something to channel it into.
All right. While you were in high school and college, did you do any sports or anything, or were you not into sport? Well, you mentioned you did play a couple sports.
Oh yeah, I thought I was going to be in the WNBA. I really did. I thought I was going to be a huge basketball star, but I was really short, so I kind of let that dream go. Well, short for basketball. I'm 5'9", so in the WNBA, that's teeny tiny. But I love basketball. I even play it every now and again now. But basketball, volleyball, track and field, shot put and discus was another huge part of my athletic career in high school. Got to go to OFSA, placed in the top 10. It was fun. It was fun. I mean, when you make the most out of everything, as you get the most out of everything. So I got the most out of trying to join every single sport that I could possibly think of, just to be social and to have cool stuff to do.
Okay, well, if you're interested, I'd challenge you to a game of basketball.
I know, right? I'm like, all right, let's get a challenge. Are we thinking of a team here?
Well, it's up to you.
Do you play basketball?
I'm not really good at the hand-eye coordination, but I do like shooting hoops, so if you want one-on-one.
There you go. You're putting it out there. All right, well, if it happens, I'm totally game with it. If it doesn't, then let it continue to evolve and grow into what it will be, and excited about that. Congrats.
No, when I mentioned it...
What's high school like for you, then, now that I know that I'm allowed to ask questions?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What was high school like for you?
It was more like I didn't go, when I was growing up, I watched the 80s videos, the Breakfast Club and the Empire Records, and I said I wanted to go to that type of high school. Unfortunately, the high school I went to was a rich, snobby country club type feel. Basically, if you had money, you can get to do whatever you want. So, unfortunately, due to the fact that I had a learning disability, I wasn't a jock or a bimbo. I was on the outside looking in, and I was basically given a hard time.
Aw. That's your memory of it, and how did you move through that? Like what? Because I'm sure that there are lots of people who are probably in high school who might come across this. Like, how did you, or what advice would you give to someone who is dealing with the pressures of you need to have money, you need to, which isn't true, but what the pressures are of feeling like you need to have money or be popular or be extremely, extremely talented at something, or like what advice would you give for somebody who's in your exact position that you were in when you were in high school?
That's a good question. But I would just say be centered, just be a good person and do the right thing. Okay.
Now more specifically, because I know someone will probably hear it and say, okay, that's all great. Any tools for when the pressure hits and they feel it in their chest and they're just like, it's so real, because it's high school, right? Like that's also when our emotions are at their peak and we think everything is so intense that now that you've gone through it and you've found so much peace, so much centeredness with yourself, do you have a tip, a tool, something you could give somebody else? Like breathe deep, count to 10, walk away. Like what would be knowing that you can overcome your goal, overcome your challenges. Like it's such a relevant thing for anybody of any age, whether there's somebody in an office dealing with bullying or in high school dealing with bullying. So I'm always eager to hear what other people's processes and tools of like, how do I survive in this world are. Now I put you on the spot.
All right. Well, I would think that you have to look at the big picture, and whatever may be happening at the time, you have to realize you have to look on if it's a negative, you have to look on the bright side, because it may seem like a big deal at the time, but really overall it's not really that big of a deal. So you just make the best of every situation.
Okay, so just try as hard as you can to look for something, even if it's asking, just even in your own head, like ask. It's like, how can I see a better situation? How can I see a positive way to look at this? That's great.
All right. Well, I know that may not answer your question, but
Oh, it totally does. It totally does, and it's always helpful to hear that some people are just like, hey, I need to just let myself know that it's like the bigger picture is it's just right now. This is not forever. This is not going to be. This too shall pass. And just even having those phrases to go to in our own mind's eye are life-changingly helpful.
No, I agree with you. Now, when I asked you if you did any sports, like you were saying, we were talking about in high school and college, did you ever get the chance to do one of those human pyramids, or are you never a human pyramid girl?
No, because that's more cheerleader, and we didn't have a cheerleader squad in my high school, and that's also really American. Because we never had, because in America, like, the cheerleaders, and it's a huge thing, but in Canada, to my knowledge anyways, or at least the high schools that I knew of, nobody was really cheerleading. I actually, me and a couple of my friends, without success, tried to get a rugby team going. We were all girls who were 5'9" and taller, and just really aggressive in high school. It was like, it could be a really great way to just let out some frustrations. But it didn't happen in the end. But, we tried.
Well, you mentioned a cheerleader. You don't have to be a cheerleader to do it for fun. You can just do it for an exercise or a group activity. I know.
Absolutely right. I just don't think anybody thought of it. We were too busy trying to get a rugby team together.
Well, would you be down for it, or are you not interested?
To do a pyramid?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had an interest to do a pyramid. I don't know. I've never thought about it. You caught me off guard with that. I've never thought about it. There's so many. I'm like, I want to go skydiving before I'm like, let's make sure we get the pyramid down. I think I'm okay with not doing the pyramid.
All right, that's throwing it out there. Now, the other questions I was going to ask you were, like I said, I'm going to ask you a bunch of easy questions, and you can ask me anything you want. When you became an actress, how many years were you acting for? Was it easy in the beginning?
Well, I'll say this. I was a makeup artist before I was an actress, and then I also became a personal trainer while I was acting. Because I'd gone on a weight loss journey of my own, and it became a really powerful thing for me, and wanted to share that as well. But then my career was starting to really get busy and take off, and I just felt it wasn't fair to start someone on a journey like that and not be able to finish it with them. So I did the ladylike thing, and I bowed out. And the beginning, it was I think everyone's career, let me just start by saying, I think everyone's career, no matter what they're doing, is so personal and so individual. And while we can take things from what other people are doing, it's still really important to run your own race and stay the course that is yours, and do things that are serving you. So having said all of that, the business will always have its ups and downs. When I first got into it, I didn't even know what to expect. I was so green. I went to Randolph Academy, which is in Toronto, and it was an amazing school, and it was an amazing experience, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about who I wanted to be, which I think is just as valid of learning who you actually are. And the process that I got from going to Randolph actually gave me the opportunity to leave that school with confidence as I walked out into the actual working force of actors and directors and writers and producers. And felt confident that I was prepared with an arsenal of tools in my kit that I knew I was only going to add on to. So I left and I kind of hit the ground running, and I had a lot of really great commercial success. I got a lot of commercials, and I got a lot of, actor roles in movies and stuff. And then, about 4 or 5 years of doing that and theater in the city, I was given beautiful opportunities to reach a larger audience with my work, and getting on some huge shows on some big networks, and doing some really great plays at some really great theaters, and premiering a Canadian play and a world premiere. And so my career is fantastic, and I love it, and I'm always expanding on it. Whether I'm like now I'm directing and writing more and producing, and so it's not just acting anymore. And now I'm getting into motivational work and how to inspire people, and just biting off enough that I can chew and digest it and be of service wherever it's needed. And it's still going. It's just still going.
All right. Well, you brought up a good point. You said you're from Toronto. From Canada. What's the difference? 2 questions. The first one is, what's the difference? How different is it from living in Canada? And if you ever been to the U.S., how different is it between the 2 countries?
I think there's a bigger divide if you either didn't grow up even watching the American culture on TV, or having American friends who studied here and you got to meet them, or if you've had friends who left and you go to visit them. So I think it's a little different, your perspective, when you never left your country. I think you just have a stereotype of a lot of stuff that's happening in another country, versus I knew friends who'd moved to Los Angeles when they were 20 and had a great time, and every time I'd visit it was so much fun, and I met the most amazing people. Even in Los Angeles, I met really kind, loving people who to this day still show me love and still embrace our friendship that we made almost a decade ago, which I find really warming to the heart, because I just believe you take you everywhere you go. So if you're finding that you're just like, oh, I don't like it here because of these people, or I don't like it there because of these people, you're just going to find that it's a bunch of the same but different, So for me, I love the States. I absolutely love the States. I love Canada. I love the States. I love the world. I think we are all global citizens, and I just enjoy meeting people just like you. I enjoy meeting people and seeing another part of the world and having a good time there, and seeing what good energy brings when you're someplace else.
Well, you mentioned having friends that you knew for a decade. I'm looking forward for our friendship to be like that. Yeah. Now, the other question is, do you have any idols? Like, I know a lot of people go on about saying Trish Stratus and Bret Hart are the big things in Canada. Is that really true, or is that more stereotypes?
Say that last bit again.
Oh, they were saying how these 2 famous people, Bret the Hitman Hart and Trish Stratus, are like these big icons in Canada. Is that really true, or is that more like stereotype, make people jealous?
I think it's true for whoever is a huge fan of them. Because there are lots of people that I'm a huge fan of that you might not have even heard of, and the biggest fan, the biggest person that I'm a fan of is my mom. I'm that girl. I'm really grateful, because she has instilled some of the greatest values that I literally live with, walk with, breathe with, every moment of every hour of every day, because of her and her strength and just the example that she set. Because it's one thing to have people that we look up to that we don't get to see their everyday life too, as well. Like when you don't see the everyday life of, Angelina Jolie, you think it's perfect and her life is literally made up of highlights. But when you see somebody every single day and you see how they overcome adversity, when you see how they, meet every challenge head on, when you see how they grow and you see how they learn to accept and love and forgive that becomes a way bigger role model to me than people I don't know. You know, it's one thing to aspire to have what other people have, and it's great to have them do that so that you can aspire to have, you know, those things for yourself. But for me, life is about what it feels like, not necessarily what it looks like. So when life feels good, life is good. And what the outside of it looks like doesn't really matter, which I know ties into your philosophy of just, you can still reach for the sky, you can still have your dreams come true, nothing is a hindrance. And I'm a big, huge, massive believer in, if I needed it, I would have it. I'm an actress and I'm tall, which, you know, some people are like, that's the death of, you know, but to me, I'm just like, if I needed to be shorter, I would have been. And if I needed to be taller, you know, I wanted to play in the WNBA, I would have been. But I'm not. I'm 5'9", and at some point in our lives, we have to just accept and be okay with that it is what it is, and to realize and to start reprogramming our brain to think in a way that allows us to feel good about what it is what it is. So when if I have what I need, I'm taken care of. If I don't have it, I don't need it, and I'm not going to stress about it. Whether it's time, money, friends, whatever, it doesn't really matter. If I have it, then I need it. If I don't, then I don't.
All right, well, that brings up to our last two subjects I want to run past you. The first one is, well, you're going to like both of these, hopefully. The first one is, where do you stand on legalizing marijuana?
Where do I stand? I think you should legalize it.
Yeah.
I absolutely. We need to pause for 1 second because an alarm is going off. This is real time. This is real life happening in the moment. 1 second. I'll be back quickly. I made it. I think it should be legalized. I have no problem with people. I just don't agree with. You know, we all see what happens when we tell people what they can do and what they can't do, and prohibition will always be like a really great example of why we shouldn't take away what people do in their pastime. It's none of anybody else's business, especially if they're being responsible with it. And it's coming a long way. In Canada, I kind of feel like it will be legalized in my lifetime anyway. So I'm definitely pro it because there's a lot of benefits for it. There are a lot of people who could actually use it for health purposes. So I think that outweighs the abusiveness of it.
No, I agree with you, and I prefer that over, you look at it like this, when you talk about, legalizing marijuana, there's never been a story of people overdosing on marijuana. Anything, it helps people with memory loss. It helps people if they're sick.
It relaxes people if they're stressed. It comes from the earth, and if Bob Marley did it forever, then I think it's okay.
Yeah, but basically, like you said, it comes from the earth. If God made it, then it's okay.
Yeah, that's my theory on it. I've never seen anybody have to get their stomach pumped because they smoke too much weed. So
you mentioned, the benefits. Like we were saying, about the cons. There's like, I don't really know any. I know it's addicting. Okay, so that's one of the cons. But I prefer people smoking over, cigarettes. Cigarettes causes cancer. Drinking causes liver damage. But that's legal. But I don't think...
Well, exactly, right?
But,
only because we have those two examples that I'm just like, whether you smoke it, whether you don't smoke it, I think making it legal is just putting everything on the table like everybody's already done, and let's just keep moving forward. You're just like, it's no different than drinking. It's no different than, it's just a choice of your vice.
No, that's true. And when marijuana becomes legalized, and it is in some states, it should be treated like alcohol and cigarettes. You shouldn't smoke and drive, and it shouldn't. There's people who text and drive, and this brings up to what I was going to say before. I'm more of those type of people who says if you text and drive, speed and drive, if you're reckless behind the wheel, you get whatever you deserve. And I don't know what a lot of people say that's horrible, but
well, I don't hear it with a malicious intent. I don't hear it from the stance of I hope you know, like I don't hear it with the I hope you hurt yourself if you are texting and driving. I more hear it from we're all like your life, all of our everybody. We all make choices consciously, subconsciously, and we have to live with them. And there are certain things that you're just kind of like, okay, if you're texting and driving, you have this as a possible, scenario, and if you're speeding, you have this as a possible scenario. It's just, you can't get mad when you get a speeding ticket when you're like, but I was speeding. You're like, I'm actually mad that I just got caught. And so there's a level of just being able to accept your life and the life that you're choosing to live instead of, but I don't blame anybody for my life if anything feels as though it's going wrong. Because I think I do really genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that the power is in us all. I think you can make massive shifts and change as one person, and I think one person can make a difference. I grew up with those, those mantras all the time, and whether you're making a difference on an individual level, whether you're making a difference on a community level, or whether you're making a difference on a global level, you're making a difference. And if your story can help one person, then it's worth it, because we've all had those aha moments, those books that fall off the shelves and all of a sudden you're like, oh, how did this happen? This makes so much sense. My life is in order again. And I just think, because I was resistant to doing the motivational work, because I was just like, oh, I don't know if that's really my thing, and yeah, sure, I've lost weight and I've kept it off. It's been a decade. I've transformed my whole life, but who cares? I mean, it's my life. It's not that big of a deal. And then more and more people kept saying it is a big deal and it's inspiring. And for the friends that I have in my life who see me on a daily basis, they're just like, the fact that I can tell you, you never waver on it. Like, you wake up and you meditate and you work out and you are consistent with these habits that you have. That's impressive, because not everybody is willing to do it, not everybody can do it, and to see somebody doing it just gives you that, like you said, as an example, that it can be done. And whenever we're not doing it, we just need to ask ourselves a question of, well, why not? Why not? Why aren't we doing it? So I think it's really great, because when somebody turns to you and says, oh my God, I just caught this Keith Network episode, and they were having this really great conversation about, how you can change your life, and how it's not think of the big picture, was the moment that they saw, let's say, and that changed their life. You'll never know that, but you've been in that situation. So why take that away from somebody else when you know you have it in you to give? It almost feels like everybody has an obligation to be an example and be the best person they can be, for whenever somebody's in that perfect spot to say, I'm ready for change and I'm going to just do it. There's somebody there who's done it. And sometimes you need somebody that's in your city. Sometimes you need somebody who's posted something, somebody who's actually taken the time to write a book or whatever, but you still need it there. Like, what would the world look like if Oprah was like, it's too hard, I'll stop? What would the world look like if everybody just quit after a couple of challenges? I love successful people because they're the biggest losers. Successful people are hands down the biggest losers on the planet, because they just understand how to handle rejection, how to handle, the adversities, and how to genuinely have patience with themselves, with others, with whatever's happening around them. And that is the definition of success for me, is being able to live your life and practice those things. No, you might not effectively do them every single day, but to have that as part of your life mantra is to implement patience, to implement I will survive adversity, and I will give myself those checkpoints of like, you know what, the bigger picture is everything's actually okay, and this is just a moment in time. Like, to have that in you, to practice that as your habit, as something you do, I think goes a really long way. I think does a lot, and there's never too late a time to start.
All right. Well, do you have any subjects or funny stories you would like to mention?
Funny stories or subjects or anything that I'd like to mention. I think it's great what you're doing. Because I know you don't live in Canada, so I'm looking forward to to building on our online community and being a part of a movement. There's the Deepak Chopra and Gabby Bernstein with India Reed. That's a fun story. India Reed changed my life. She has no idea, and I think I'll just write her a letter. And if it gets to her, it gets to her. But she has no idea that she single-handedly put me on this path. Her words resonated with me so much, and I listened to it every single day like she was my goddess in the sky, and I found the love of my life through listening to her music and believing in what she was preaching, and my career took off through believing in the teachings that she believed in it, and there was one, when I saw her in concert the very next day, I had an audition for the Stratford Festival, which is it's like Canada's Broadway, and I had a really big audition, and I was running so late because I got caught up talking with people and having jokes and beers at a theater festival, and then I realized I had 20 minutes to get across town in like rush hour traffic, and I was like, my heart started going like a mile a minute, and I was like, oh my God. And then I just remembered the words from India Reed's song of like, I can choose how I want to feel regardless of the situation. And it's a song that she has called I Choose. And I just kind of sat in that energy, and I really chilled out, and my cab somehow, for twist of fate, got to my audition on the nose, like, if anybody had asked if Lisa Berry was called, and they said no, they just came out to say they were taking 10 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for not stressing. Thank you so much for being calm and relaxed, because now I have 10 minutes to really do this the way I want to. And that was all because I saw India Reed in concert after listening to her for a year. And I got to be third row center. And then the next day I got a call saying I got the job, and I was starting work in a couple of months, and that's where I met my love of my life. Pretty good story, about people that you don't know are changing the world, one person at a time. And I'm sure India Reed is now like, I wonder if that girl that was sitting third row center, I wonder how she's doing. Like, I'm sure that India is not saying that, but she changed my life.
All right, well, we're wrapping up. Do you have anything you want to say to your fans, to the listeners?
I love you. I think they're awesome. I think let's end with a really great affirmation of, we have an abundance of love. There is so much peace in the world, and if you look for it, and may, today and tomorrow, may the love that we have in our hearts be infectious and contagious.